I'm John Kyle. Let me begin our press conference here. After a few short remarks, I'll introduce Senator McCain, and then each of us will in turn introduce the next the next person to speak. We are united in our opposition to Proposition 203, and we urge all Arizonans to vote no on Proposition 203. I'm just going to give you three quick reasons why I oppose it. First of all, it's a fraud. Medical marijuana, or marijuana for medical treatment, is the foot in the door for legalization. And if you saw the George Soros op-ed in the Wall Street Journal this week, you see precisely the point of this exercise, to legalize marijuana. And I'll just cite some of the organizations who say it's not necessary. The American Medical Association, the American Cancer Society, the Academy of Pediatrics, the Multiple Sclerosis Society, the American Glaucoma Society, American Academy of Ophthalmology, Department of Health Services, and so on. It is unnecessary to treat medical conditions. Secondly, the definition of debilitating medical condition reveals a second basis on which one can call it a fraud. The fact that in Colorado, the Department of Public Health and Environment reports that severe pain, in quotation marks, accounts for 93% of all of the reported medical conditions for which the prescription is obtained is illustrative, and the fact that the overall average age of the patients is 40. So we're talking about a lot of young people who contend that they're in pain, as a result of which they can get this drug. And third, virtually every county sheriff and prosecutor in Arizona and elsewhere make the point that greater access and availability for marijuana will lead to more illegal drug use, impaired driving, and other pernicious effects. If passed, for example, it would allow for the distribution of 2.5 ounces of marijuana every 2 weeks, which is enough marijuana to produce 200 marijuana cigarettes. Think of that, 200 cigarettes in 2 weeks. That is going to create an extreme, dangerous situation for those who are driving, and in other ways come into contact with folks who are then on marijuana. Those are just three of the reasons why I very strongly oppose the proposition and support the efforts of those who urge a no vote on Proposition 203. My colleague, Senator McCain, feels likewise, and let me introduce him next for the next part of our press conference.
Well, I thank Senator Kyle, and I'm proud to be joined by Congressman Shadegg, Congressman Franks, our distinguished County Attorney Rick Romley, and Sheila Polk, who is the Yavapai County Attorney, who are on the front lines on this issue. And I think that the words that they have to say are very important. So I'll be brief, except to say that obviously this is not a good thing to happen. We've seen the adverse effects of an example of this over in California. And we obviously have great sympathy for those who struggle in pain or discomfort from debilitating diseases and medical conditions, but this proposition is not the solution. The FDA doesn't recognize smoking marijuana as a treatment for any medical condition. The FDA has no approved dosage or prescribing guidelines, and there is not a single shred of government data to support the safety of dosage. We've made great strides here in Arizona in new drug treatments and research for numerous conditions, and our efforts, I think, should be focused here. TGen, for example, right here in Arizona, is working on new therapies for numerous conditions, and other biomedical research is taking place throughout the state. So I hope that the voters of Arizona will pay close attention to Rick Romley and to Sheila Polk and others in the law enforcement area that will tell you, I think, and demonstrate the difficulties and challenges associated with the passage of this proposition. Congressman Shadegg.
Thank you, Senator McCain and Senator Kyle. I join the others here in expressing my strong opposition to this ballot initiative. And I do so not only as a member of the United States Congress, for which I've had the privilege to serve for the last 16 years, but speaking for my years in the Arizona Attorney General's office, working with Attorney General Bob Corbin and with the county attorneys around the state. I'm glad that Rick Romley and Sheila Polk are here to express the views of those individuals, but I will tell you that every single county attorney in the state of Arizona opposes this initiative, and every single county sheriff in this state opposes this initiative, and for good reason. I want to start with just a really brief personal story. Yesterday I spoke at a Lions Club. It's the daily grist for politicians, I guess maybe often for those who are not up for re-election in an election year. And the banner at the table was a discussion about this very initiative. And the question was, do some people really need marijuana to treat a painful condition or a medical condition? And I will tell you that I think Senator Kyle had it right, the Arizona Republican had it right, Senator McCain had it right. This initiative is a fraud. It is fundamentally a fraud. Everyone knows what it's really about. It's really all about legalizing marijuana. Its proponents pretty much agree with that. If you read the George Soros op-ed that Senator Kyle referred to, 2/3 of it talks about the benefits of legalizing marijuana, and at the last moment, as a kind of an afterthought, there is a statement that, oh, by the way, medical marijuana is a good idea as well. Let me tell you some things that are a little shocking. You've heard some of the public policy arguments against it, and there are many others. But let me tell you some things that are kind of interesting in it. Let's start with the fact that there are both proposals for dispensaries and for homegrown marijuana. Interestingly, the law allows enforcement against dispensaries, but allows no enforcement whatsoever. No enforcement whatsoever against homegrowing operations. They are apparently completely exempt. But second, with regards to dispensaries, and this is very interesting, business people in Arizona might like to hear it, the dispensaries are, first of all, tax exempt, as though they were a charity, and second, under the explicit language of the initiative, there can be no inspection of the dispensaries without advance warning from the Department of Health. Now you tell me how many people are in the construction business and are visited by government inspectors without notice any day of the week? How many people are in any other business in Arizona and they know that a federal inspector can appear at their door at any given moment and want to see their records? Certainly a McDonald's is open to inspection by the health department at any single moment in time without advance notice, and yet the crafters of this initiative said, well, we don't want that for the dispensaries. But there's one point that even goes beyond that. First of all, I used to make a part of my living in the Arizona Attorney General's office, advising the Secretary of State's office. And in that capacity, I've had my time of reading initiatives. This initiative is 35 pages long of fine print. I would suggest that is reason enough to vote no. It seems to me if you can't say it in less than 35 pages and you expect the people to adopt it and for it to remain in place and be almost impossible to change, you ought to be able to say it less words than that. And that the Arizona people ought to be very concerned about it. But I just want to call one provision to your attention, and maybe the county attorneys will comment on this. Buried in the language of this initiative, in section 38-2811, subsection E, is the following language. A registered nonprofit medical marijuana dispensary is not subject to prosecution or search except by the department, that refers to the Department of Health Services, pursuant to section 38206. 38206 is the section that says it must be given advance warning. Now think about that. What that says is if you are only subject to search by the Department of Health Services, then a judge, apparently, cannot give the county attorney's office or the Phoenix Police Department a search warrant to go inspect or search a marijuana dispensary. This is not the kind of initiative that is simple and straightforward. It is the kind of thing about which people of Arizona need to know and understand. It is dangerous, and I'm proud to join those who strongly oppose it. At this point, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Trent Franks.
Well, thank you, John. Let me first just endorse completely everything that has been said at this podium thus far by Senator McCain, Senator Kyle, and John Shadegg. I believe that they laid out some of the logical reasons why this is indeed a fraud. But let me just express to you that I want to come at this from just a little different perspective. I had the privilege of being the head of the Governor's Office for Children of the state in years past. And part of that responsibility was heading the task force on drug and alcohol prevention among children. And part of the compiled research that we gained from that task force was something that was, I think, very apropos to today's discussion, and that is that as much as the proponents of this fraud would suggest otherwise, marijuana is indeed a gateway drug to the hard drugs for the young people of this community and beyond. And I would suggest to you that if we have any sense of insight into the future and commitment to our children, we will reject this fraud as soundly as we did the last time when the people of Arizona voted on it. There is no question to anybody that has seen people fall prey to just marijuana alone without it going on to harder drugs. This is a perfect way to put your life in one spot and never move forward with any sort of advance that's measurable at all. Marijuana has an insidious impact on anyone that uses it. But the reality is that it does indeed take children into greater and greater dangers. And you don't have to be a genius or a law enforcement agency to understand the impact that young children, teenagers, getting into drugs really has a way of crushing their lives and their families. And it is something that if voters will act like grown-ups, they will reject it again, in my judgment. And I hope that they do. And I guess there's no one in the world that understands the impact of these kinds of things more than law enforcement. So it's my privilege to introduce Rick Romley, the county attorney, who is someone that's dedicated his life to protecting the innocent and protecting all of us, really, and understands the significance of it. So, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman. Adding my voice to that, those that have already spoken today, I strongly urge Arizonans to reject Proposition 203. I'm going to come at it from a bit of a different angle as well. I'm perhaps going to provide you with a historical perspective of the medical marijuana initiatives that have existed in Arizona since 1996, when the first initiatives in the country were passed by Arizona and California for medical marijuana. I will not forget my opposition, to that initiative here in Arizona, because I too believed, and to this day, I still believe that this is a fraud upon Arizonans, that it is a lie. Nothing more than that. This is not about medicine. This is a movement towards legalization. I remember during the first initiative drive, we put together a video that had pulled together some videotaped meetings of the people behind these initiatives, where they were literally laughing at Arizonans and Californians by saying how they had literally been able to hoodwink the citizenry of our good states. They laughed and said that they are going to get not just marijuana, but other drugs legalized as well. It was the great smokescreen. And that's what this is about today. Look, I think all of us here understand, especially the senator, what it is to have pain, to have difficulties. And we are a compassionate nation. And we want the medical community to provide all appropriate relief to those that have been injured. I was wounded. I understand pain. But this is not about appropriate medicine. We do not decide which medicines are good at the ballot box. We have protocols by which we follow to be able to determine if those medicines are good. And here you have the American Medical Association saying no. The American Cancer Society saying no, which is really very interesting, because before they had spoken out, this movement was trying to characterize them as being in support of this particular proposition. But the medical community is clearly saying no. So I would urge Arizonans to clearly and resoundingly defeat this proposition.